The win over Josh McDaniels wasn't just a game. It was a statement. It was a moment where the Raiders reminded everyone that execution, grit, and belief can shift an entire narrative. Beating the coach who once ran your building carries a weight that goes beyond the scoreboard. It's personal. It's symbolic. And for this team, it feels like a reset. A clean break from old frustrations, proof that when the Raiders take control of the moment, they can set the tone for what comes next. The talk leading into the game was all about the opponent. The trendy playoff sleeper, the team that was supposed to leap forward in year 2, double their win total, and ride the buzz into January. That storyline evaporated the second the Raiders outplayed them. Suddenly, the conversation turned on its head. Maybe the other team isn't as good as we thought. Maybe they were overhyped. But here's the truth. Dismissing what the Raiders just did as a product of someone else's flaws is lazy. This wasn't luck. This wasn't an accident. This was execution, coaching, and a roster proving it has more depth and more answers than people realized. National predictions always seem to miss this team. They skim the roster, circle a few familiar names, and shrug. They don't understand what Dan Thornton brings. They don't see the leaps from a coaching staff that has grown sharper, tougher, smarter. They overlook the depth that allows the Raiders to keep swinging when things get tight. And yet, when the lights came on, Jacoby Myers looked every bit the WR1. Brock Bowers showed why he's already a matchup nightmare. And the younger guys the Raiders have been grooming proved they're ready to contribute. There were injury scares, like when Bowers took a shot to the knee. But he bounced back, no long-term concerns, and that matters. Because when he needed a breather, the Raiders didn't panic. They turned to Michael Mayer, who stepped into the spotlight seamlessly. That's roster construction. That's depth. And make no mistake, Mayer would be a starting tight end on just about any other team in the division. Depth was the quiet storyline heading into this season, and in week 1, it showed. Yes, the line still has to improve. Yes, the defense is a work in progress. You don't go from 4 wins to a Super Bowl contender overnight. But what this game proved is that the Raiders are ahead of schedule compared to the teams rebuilding around them. They had the better quarterback. They had the better staff. They had better answers when it mattered most. Even on defense, where Gonzalez's eventual return will only make things sharper, the unit flew around and made plays. Devin White looked like he might be finding his form again. Cooney and Tyree Wilson both showed flashes, and if they keep popping together, that's the difference between a rebuild and a reset. The offense wasn't flawless, but it had multiple ways to win. Ashton Genty didn't explode statistically, but the Raiders had options, and Bowers lining up at receiver gave them flexibility most teams can only dream of. That's what separates a team with one path to victory from one with many. Look around the league. Weird things happen in week 1. The Bengals stumbled. A couple of quarterbacks looked like legends in the rain. The Colts aren't going undefeated. Early season football lies. What carries forward are the things that translate: veteran execution, smart adjustments, stacking up against teams in your tier. The Raiders showed all of that. Patrick Graham, who's been criticized for shaky adjustments in the past, showed he could adapt. Chip Kelly didn't just call plays, he set traps. The second half changes were surgical. This wasn't make-believe football. This was a real staff with a real plan, a real quarterback, and a defense with a spine. Add in Pete Carroll's influence whispering through the headset, and the adjustments felt legitimate. You could feel it shift. And then there's Geno Smith. The stats jump off the page. 9 completions of 20-plus yards. The most by a Raiders quarterback in a single game since 1991. Rain. Hostile road stadium. A defensive-minded opponent. He kept delivering, threading throws into windows that barely existed. Pete Carroll brushed it off like it was routine, but this was more than just another performance. This was a marker. I've said it before, and now I'll double down. Geno is the most talented quarterback the Raiders have had since 2016. And the cost? A third-round pick. When I think back to conversations about giving up a first or second for Matthew Stafford, I can admit it now. I was wrong. Geno was the move. Watching the film, the throws were not just precise, they were brave. They came when the entire stadium expected run or screen, and Geno didn't flinch. He has the arm. He has the timing. And he has the weapons. That's how you build an offense with real answers. The defense mirrored that. Max Crosby faced double teams and still wrecked plays. Tyree Wilson held the edge, forced runs back inside, and created chaos. Cooney punched the ball out. These are the plays that shift momentum. And when Graham dialed up pressure at the right moments, forcing the opposing quarterback to sort protections pre-snap only to change the picture post-snap, it paid off. That interception, that errant throw, it was born from sequencing and trust in the front. The glue pieces mattered too. When Landon Roberts went down, Dion White stepped up, shot the right gaps, tackled hard, and got the ball back. That's the kind of depth that keeps games from slipping away. That's the blueprint. Mid-round rookies hitting, veterans reigniting their careers, young talent climbing step by step. That's how you turn a franchise around. It's not about one flashy star carrying the load. It's about answers behind answers. It's about building a roster that can survive injuries, weather mistakes, and still have the right pieces when the game is on the line. So where does this leave the Raiders? Right now, they're not a finished product. Protection still has to improve. Coverage has to tighten. The run game has to find rhythm. But the foundation is solid. The quarterback is right. The staff is aligned. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like the Raiders are not just guessing, not just hoping, but actually building something real. This wasn't a cute upset in September. This was a glimpse into who the Raiders can be when the coaching plays chess, when the roster has depth, and when the quarterback delivers. The AFC West is as open and competitive as it's been in years, and the Raiders just showed they belong in that fight.